But that's the thing about it, and that's why we need to progress in this Christian walk, because we don't progress in this Christian walk. Someplace along the way, if you're not determined to be all in, someplace along the way, you're just going to stop. And you're going to think everything's okay, but it's not going to be okay. I mean, how much you can convince yourself I'm all right, but it's not all right. And, we all going to have to stand before God and give an account of what we've done. And if I'm going to stand before God and give an account of what He's done, at least I want to know, God, I gave my all. I did my best, even though I have failed many times and been a miserable failure sometimes. One thing I've always tried to do is do what He asked me to do the very best that I can, even though I don't think I do it sometimes, but to give everything that I have, to be as faithful as I can be, to do as much as I can do. It doesn't matter what it is, just to be a servant. Because I may wear a title of a pastor, but how much we all just servants. We're all called to serve. And just because you wear a title of a pastor, it don't make you any more important than anybody else. We all have a job to do. And wouldn't it be easier, Tracy, if everybody in HR was all in? How much easier would your job be? Gerald, I hear you talk about how much easier would your job be if everybody just came and just did what they were supposed to do to the T. You'd be shouting around the factory, wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah. I know we at work now. They don't watch. They ain't gonna watch this no how. But we at work now. We just got two people. They come in miserable. They go home miserable. They come back in the next day. They're miserable. And what they wasn't miserable about the day before, even though there wasn't anything miserable about today, now they miserable again. And we got this other person there. She's miserable too. Now and I'm stuck in between the two of them. My case is right in between the two of them. There was one day, and when they ain't Christian, I just wanted to tell them, would you please shut up? They ain't happy about this. They ain't happy about that. I mean, my goodness, you get how much the post office folks, they make good money. And you have your problems, but you work for the government. It's not a bad thing. Yes, it's a lot of issues, and yes, Tracy will tell you it's a lot of headache, but you're going to have that in any job. But how much if we got a job, we blessed. If it pays your bills, you're blessed. And just realize, there's things I don't like about it, but I still try to do my best. I'm one of those that may grumble, but the whole time I'm grumbling, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And probably somebody won't tell, would you please shut up? I can understand that, but we've got to be all in. In Ezekiel chapter 47, it said, then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple toward the east. For the front of the temple faced east, the water was flowing under the right side of the temple, south of the altar. He brought me out by the way of the north gate and led me around on the outside to the outer gate that faces east, and there was water running out on the right side. And then the man went out to the east with a line in his hand. He measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters that came up to my ankles. He measured 1,000 cubits and brought me through the waters. The water came up to my knees, and he measured 1,000, brought 1,000 cubits more and brought me through. The water came up to my waist. And again he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not cross, for the water was too deep, water in which one must swim, a river that could not be crossed. And we all know this story, and we understand the meaning behind it. But how much, to me, when I read this, we've got to be all in. We can't just go part of the way and stop and be satisfied, Brother Gerald. We shouldn't be satisfied till we cross the finish line. I shouldn't quit. I shouldn't want to give up. I shouldn't want to back up an inch until I see Jesus face to face. Then I can rest in the place he's been preparing for you and I. Then I can begin to praise him. But till then, Sister Betty, I got to keep working. I got to keep doing. We got to keep living this life, and we got to keep growing in him. And if moving water is not moving, it's what? It becomes what? it becomes stagnant. It becomes green, and it does for. You ever been in Sunk Lake? Sunk Lake stinks. Gerald, I'm sure they got waters around here that's stagnant, and if you go to the places, they stink. I wasn't going to say this, but I can't help myself. Why don't people go to church? Because church stinks. Because this became stagnant. Because they got to a certain place and they got satisfied. They got complacent. They was happy right there. But God doesn't want us to be at one place. I think we constantly grow. I may not be a whole lot smarter, but I've learned some things in the 34 years I've served him. I'm better than I was 34 years ago. I'm still not where I need to be, but I'm headed there. But the time, Brother Samuel, I decide I don't need to go another step with him, and I just want to sit down. How's that the time I'm going to start backing up? And before long, you probably won't see me around here because I decided it's okay to stay home, and I decided it's okay not to do this and not to do that. But the first place he brought them to was water to the ankles. How many people on a hot day just want to put your feet in the water? But Gerald, it kind of refreshes you, don't it? It kind of feels good. And how many felt the same way when you got saved? And that's what one thing I read this afternoon. That's what ankle deep water represents. It represents the time that you got saved, when you was living in sin and living under the filth of sin and that heavy weight of sin. But you came in and the pastor prayed with you, and yet that load was lifted. It just felt good because it represented a change. Your mindset changed. I know when I got saved, the grass seemed greener, the sky seemed bluer. I soon found out that it don't last sometimes. We have people tell you, oh, you got to get saved, everything's going to be real. Don't lie to them like that. Amen. Because Jesus said, in this world we shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. But you're saved. You're on your way to heaven, so it's a good thing. And if you read this scripture, in all four places it took them, it said he led them. He took them through the ankle. Every step of my progression as a Christian, every step I took as a Christian from one place to the other, how God has been right there with me. And he's got me through. Everybody say, he got me through. Ain't you glad, Sister Ruth Ann, your whole growth as a Christian, from the time you got saved, I don't know if it's proper growth or wherever it may have been, from that time to now, God has brought you through. And she's grown every day. I believe growed every day. Every time she prays, she grows more. Every time we come to church, we should hear something tonight that will inspire us, that when we leave here, our walk is just a little bit better. And if we come with an open heart and open mind, I believe that we will, regardless who's preaching. If they any good, or you consider they bad. How much you can hear something from somebody. I know Sunday morning, Pastor Troy totally blessed my heart. I'm going to share just a little bit of it. Sunday night just totally blessed my heart. But I could sit down, when Daniel preached. Daniel thoroughly blessed my heart. Tracy and Elizabeth, when they do what they do up here, totally just inspires me. A lot of what I'm going to do next Friday night, Tracy, I borrowed from you, so thank you very much. But water to the ankles, and it just feels good, but we can't stay there. We see so many people come in, and it's like they put their feet in it, and it feels good, and they know that something's happened, and they never experienced this before. But that's as far as it goes. They go back out, even though they know it felt good, even though there's something changed about them, there's something different about them, something that how many, when you got saved, you experienced something like you never experienced before? You meeting Jesus, and he's changed. Promise, when you meet Jesus, it changes your life. But you can't stay there. You can't get satisfied there. Because you're going to go back out into this world, and the first thing somebody's going to tell you, you don't need to do that. And then the enemy's going to lie to you. And before long, if you don't progress to the next step, you don't keep moving forward, if you're not all in, he's going to take you out there. And all you've experienced is just ankle. Brother Gerald, I wanted more than that. Now, I felt something good that Sunday morning at Henning, but it made me want to come back and made me want more. But there was enemies out there. There was things out there that could have got us out. If I didn't have the mindset, I felt something like I ain't never felt. I experienced something like I ain't never experienced. I want more of this, and ain't nothing gonna get me out. And that's what that ankle deep water. We've got to get past there. You could, my Lord, you wouldn't have enough church buildings for all the folks that didn't get out ankle deep water. and they still playing in the puddle. They still tromping around in the mud hole, and they could be out in the river. Now it's okay for Lincoln to be out there in a puddle, playing in the water. But how silly would it look to me to be out there in a puddle playing in the water? At some point, we've got to advance past the ankle deep water. At some point, that's not going to. It shouldn't satisfy us. But people's got satisfied. But folks, there's a lot of folks think they're going to be in heaven, and they stuck in ankle deep water. Help me here. I'm just not sure. I'm not doubting them. I'm just not sure. Especially you've been in this thing 35 years, you're still stuck in ankle deep water. Something wrong. So we've got to get past that. He said he measured out another 1,000 cubits, and then the water came up to their knees. And I read one thing this afternoon that the knees kind of represents prayer, because sometimes after salvation you begin to pray. In the ankle deep water, it felt good that when you get up to your knees, you can just feel a little bit, Brother Sam, but you know something is different. How much you're changing. And how much prayer changes for it. Prayer changes things. Prayer changes you. So we've got to get past that. We've got to get past the ankle deep. And they said he brought him through up to his knees now. Now he can feel just a little bit of the current. And it really feels good. But how much we can't get satisfied there either, because there's so much more left to do. Well, I'm saved and I'm talking to God, but there's so much more left to do. There's a world dying and going to hell. We've got a job to do. And we've got to progress past that. We've got to want more. Because how much when you begin to pray, the enemy's the pressure. When you're in ankle deep water, he's going to turn up the pressure. But you rate out to your knees. You rate out just a little bit deeper to your knees, and you're going to feel the pressure turn up. Now he's going to begin to see, do you really mean what you say? Are you as determined as you think you are? Folks, that's the time to pray. So he went to the knee deep, and then the next thing, we're going to get through really quick today. He said they brought him out another 1,000 cubits. They went to waist deep water. How many of when you get in waist deep water, you what? You halfway in. You can come into a service and you feel the Spirit of God moving, and you feel how much when you're in waist deep water, especially in the ocean, Brother Gerald. I don't like the ocean. I've never gone in it a whole lot, but I know when you get out there pretty deep, the water comes in, you can feel the rush of that current. My understanding, if you're in the river, I wouldn't tell you go stand in the river, but if you're in the river, if you're waist deep in the river, you can feel the current of the Mississippi River on you. So you begin to feel something you've never felt. If you experienced salvation, you went to knee-deep water, you made it through that level. Now you're in waist-deep water. You can begin to feel God beginning to move you. And feel God, you can almost take you, but you're still standing on your feet. Still standing on your feet. Still kind of leery. Still kind of doubtful. How much we got to get past the doubt? We've got to want more than that. Sometimes that's just Sister Ruth, and that's all they want is just come in and just feel it. Just preach me happy, Pastor. My Lord, get out of that. Still halfway in the world, halfway out of the world, still halfway doing things, halfway this way. It takes more. But you got enough in that you can feel him, but you ain't got enough in that you want to go further. Does that make any sense? And that's why, Brother Sammy, we have the difficulties we have. Because we're living a halfway life. Especially in the day and time we're living in. Half of you in the church, half of you out of the church. You come to church, you can feel the power of God, feel the Spirit of God. You've experienced enough to know the difference. And God will bless you. I believe God, if you're sincere that day and you open your heart to Him that day, God will bless you that day. But as soon as you leave that service and the Spirit's not moving and you can't feel the presence anymore and you don't feel like you're being carried along, Brother Gerald, when you walk through those doors and hell hits you in the face, it's still happy to be out there. So when you're around Christian folks, you're going to do what Christian folks do. But when you're around worldly folks, you're going to do what? How many sees that to be true? And they think they okay, but once again, I'm not judging them, but I'm not sure. So and then the sad thing is when they one way here and one way there, people out there sees how they are out there, sees what they claimed in here, and sometimes they may see them God moving in the service, see them jump up and run and shout, then you see them go out there and cuss like a sailor. Something wrong. And that's where we can't be satisfied in the race deep water, but we got to keep progressing in Him. Folks, I hope I'm past race deep. And then the last thing he said, he measured out 1,000 more cubits, and the water was too deep that he couldn't stand. He was being carried along. That's where I want to be. That's the point when you say, God, I trust you. That's when God begins to move you. And that's what God is looking for in a church. And there's 4 things that I read this afternoon. It said the first thing we've got to do is we've got to surrender. When you in that water over your head, Brother Gerald, and it's either sink or swim, you got to trust Him. God, this is too big for me, but I trust you. And that's what, and I don't mean to harp on this over and over this year, but that's what we've done this year. We have trusted God. Sister Linda, we've done things bigger than us. We have. Over this last year and a half, we've done things bigger than us. We've done things more than the 28 people should be able to do. Now, how can you accomplish this and do what we're going to accomplish 4 weeks from now? How can we do this? Because we ain't over our head. We ain't trying to figure it out. We just riding along with the wave. We just let Him carry us where He wants to carry us. Completely trusting, leaning on His everlasting arm. God, I'm leaning on you. I'm trying to figure out why, how. And as a pastor, I've sat down and I put the dollars to it, and sometimes it worries me. I can't tell you the time. That's a bad thing about us doing the books here. Can't tell you the time I went to look at the checkbook. But you know the one thing I found? It's never dropped past a certain number. Now, we think we were at the beginning of the year, but it hasn't dropped past a certain number that I think we need to have. And every time I look at that and I see that, I say, God, forgive me for doubting you. Let me just jump back in over my head and trust you. Let me lean on you. And it's what we've done. In our life, we can do that. Whether it's buying turkeys or just everyday life. When you got to get in over, when you get in over your head, Tracy, you just riding along. When she sat down behind that piano after playing it for 15, I'm not going to go 30 years, 15, 20 years, ever how long it might have been, you just got in over your head. Tracy, I want you to play the piano. Wait a minute, Lord, I ain't played this thing. What was your first response? But, you know, stepping back, and when she was in Arizona, she might have not been in over her head water. But she got in, and that led how much that's a constant growth. So when you get in over your head, He's going to take you. He's able to take you places that you didn't think you could go. Maybe use a talent that you had that you thought was long gone, but you can never do again. But when you're over your head, you just say, "Okay, Lord, it's not me, but it's you." And ain't she done a wonderful job at it? So it's just a matter of getting in over your head and trusting Him. But you got to surrender. You've got to say, Lord, He doesn't want part of me. He wants all of me. He don't want me tracing around in ankle deep water. He wants me in over my head. Me leaning on him and trusting him. But we've got to surrender. The last thing is the next thing is dependence. At this point in the river, one is completely out of control. They have reached a place that's beyond their ability to take charge. They depending solely on the waters to carry them where they need to go, and that's where we need to get to. When we end over our head, when we in that water that we can't stand, Brother Gerald, I'm totally dependent on him. Whatever he does is right. However he decides to go and how he decides to use me, Lord, I'll just go. Lord, I'll just do. What you want me to preach, I'll do my best to preach. You want me to sing, I'll do my best to sing. You want me to be a faithful church member, I'll do my best to be a faithful church member. If you want me to wash the toilets, Lord, I'll wash the toilets. Well, I'm too good to wash the toilets. Well, chances are if you feel that way, you ain't in over your head. Because I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of God than anything else. Amen. Whatever Brother Landon wanted me to do, I'll do. Whatever Brother Steve wanted me to do, I'll do. And I still feel that way. Whatever y'all want me to do, I'll do. And just because I wear a pastor don't mean I can't do, because I'm still a servant at heart, and that's where God wants us to be. But we got to be dependent on him. And the last thing, sanctification. At this point, one is completely saturated by the water. It has covered their entire being. How knows when you're in over your head? How knows God's got you covered? Now, the enemy wants to pull you back down and pull you back into the world of sin. But when you're in, you're completely over your head. How knows he's got you? And you got him, and there's nothing the enemy can do about it. And that's the whole message tonight. And I did it in about 15 minutes. So I didn't lie, about 20 minutes. But we just got to be all in. Now, Sunday morning, I'm going to talk about Sunday morning about just to give you a preview. Sunday morning, I'm going to talk about, I think it was Elijah or Elijah, when they were with her, had the two sons, and she was going to have to sell her sons because she didn't have the money to pay her debt. And then, Elijah showed up and told him, go borrow vessels. Not a few, but borrow as many as you can. When you were all in, how much at that point she needed to be all in? She had to trust God. This Sunday night, I'm going to preach on, I think, Acts chapter 14. If you read that story, between 1 and 7, I think, it talks about another lame man, Paul, that couldn't walk, but he was ripe for a miracle. What makes us ripe for a miracle is being in over our head, having a dependence on God, trusting God. No matter what illness you have, my God is bigger. That's being in over your head. It may be cancer, but God, you can defeat cancer. That's being in over your head. Yes, Lord. And if he doesn't heal you and he takes you out, you can make a statement right before you die. God is still a good God. I know that he's God, and I know that he always will be God, and nothing ever changes that. My circumstances don't change that. My situations doesn't change that. The storms I may be going through doesn't change that, because I know that he's God. How do you know that he's God? Because I've been in over my head for 20-something years, and I've been totally dependent on him, and he's never let me down. And that's never been one place, Sister Ruth Ann, he hasn't got me through, because I'm just along for the ride. When I take this microphone on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night, I'm completely over my head. I'm walking in places that Tim can't walk. But I'm walking in places leaning on one that can carry me through whatever I've got to do and anoint me to do what I got to do and anoint me to be what I need to be. And use this simple person to deliver a message that will touch somebody's heart or to touch somebody's life. That not because of me, but what he speaks through me. Because it's not me. When you're in over your head, it's not you. When you're in over your head and you carry it along, Brother Gerald, when you jump in that Mississippi River, you're going for where it wants you to go. They said the current's too strong. You can't swim through it. You look at a log, you're along for the ride. And that's all I want to be of him. I just want to be along for the ride. Just let him carry me. Let him use me. Anybody got anything else before we close tonight? because we look at people and say, well, man, I wish I could do what they do. But the only way they're doing what they do is because they're all in. I wish I could sing like they could sing. Well, live like they live. Walk like they walk. Do what they do. Please don't follow me. Follow somebody like Sister Ruth Ann. Walk like she walks. My goodness, don't use me as an example. I'll pick on you, Sister Ruth Ann. Give me some, like a Brother Land. I wish I could be like Brother Land. Well, walk like he walked. There's something about those old men of God. They was all in. I'm going to have the privilege to stand in the pulpit a week on Friday night that Brother Crowley Allstill preached. I believe he was all in. I believe he was totally sold out to Jesus. And what an honor and a privilege it's going to be. I'm humbled. I don't deserve that, but I'm humbled by being able to do that. But he was all in. I believe Brother Ackes, I only met him a few times, talked to him in the emergency, probably the longest we ever talked was in the intensive care waiting room at Covington. We had the people there, but I believe he was all in. Brother Larry Rose, I believe he's all in. Brother Sammy, I believe that when you got saved, you got all in. He didn't pull around an ankle deep water. He jumped in the thing. And how many people has been touched by Brother Sammy? Never preached a message as far as, no, you can if you want to. I'll give you the microphone now. You have at it. Never sung a special. Just a man of God that's all in. Living for Christ and letting Christ shine through him. Folks, that's what it's about. That's when you're going to have an impact. When it's no longer you, it's about him. And he works through you like he wants to work through you. And you don't have anything else but just to let him move and let him work. And there's so many people I've been touched through the years. Granny Gardner, she taught Sunday school, but Granny was a person that was all in. Sometimes to the point that she didn't need to be that much in. She might have took it to levels that like that time she gave those people earplugs. With you complaining about the sound system, Granny gave them a pair of earplugs. We put these in and shut your mouth. I said, Granny, you probably shouldn't have done that. Then they showed up the next week with a presbyter and wanted me to throw her out of a Sunday school class. I said, that lady going to teach Sunday school as long as I'm Sunday school superintendent. I ain't throwing out. Then they want to throw me out. Because God put her in that Sunday school class, and it wasn't Tim's job to move her out of that Sunday school class. And I ain't going to go there. I got to hush before I say something totally wrong. But I made up a long time ago, God put me in this, and ain't no devil taking me out of this. I'm going to make it to the end. But in order to have that kind of mindset and make it to the end, to endure to the end, you've got to be all in. Anybody got anything else? Tracy, got anything else you want to? It is. No. It's what we're striving for. Because there's going to be some days you're going to be pressing into the deep. And like I said, I don't like the ocean, but if you can walk out to the ocean so much, there's going to be days it's going to what? It's going to carry you back. Well, you're going to have to make up your mind, am I going to let this carry me back, or I'm going to start again? And you may get out there again, then here comes another wave. I know we went to a wave pool in Pigeon Forge. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but how is those things that carry you back? And I finally decided, I said, I'm going to go as far as I can, because I can't swim, so I'm too smart. I ain't going too far. Then that thing picked me up, Sister Linda, started carrying me along. And this poor little child, probably 5 or 6 years old, I went over the top of him. I thought I'd killed him. You was fair. It was ugly, wasn't it? My feet over my head turned me upside. I didn't know which way I was. I don't know how I can make anything spiritual out of it before I told you that. So if we go to a wave pool, Sister Ruth Ann, please don't get behind me. Tracy, pray before I get myself in trouble.